What's going on, y'all? My name's Trey Kepsel, and this is Elk Motorsports. Well, y'all, in this video, we're going to be disassembling the cylinder head off of the Suzuki Samurai. Now, I've got two cylinder heads here. I have the one that came off of the engine with the broken ring landing, and I have another one from another motor that I had that had a spun rod bearing. The reason why I have both of these out is I didn't notice in the last video any damage to the combustion chambers on the cylinder head off of this motor with the broken ring landing, but later in the garage I did notice combustion chamber number 4. There is a piece of the combustion chamber missing, completely separate from cylinder number 2 with the broken ring landing. So that cylinder head probably is not going to be able to be reused. It actually has damage to it, so I'm going to disassemble this other cylinder head and take it to the machine shop and make sure that it's squared away. But the nature of that cylinder head isn't really known. Like this one is actually off of, a motor that was rebuilt by a reputable company. So I'm probably going to reuse, the rocker arms, the rocker shafts, probably the camshaft. I'm probably going to scavenge it of all the parts that I know that are within specification and are squared away and put them on this other cylinder head that'll probably I'm going to have it bare. I'm going to have them just completely check it over and make sure it's all squared away. So right here on the cylinder number 4 combustion chamber, you can see this piece of the combustion chamber that's actually missing. This is cylinder number 2. It has no damage whatsoever to it. So I'm pretty sure because of this, I'm not going to be able to reuse this cylinder head. All right, y'all. To do this job outside of just the normal hand tools that you're going to need, you're also going to need some sort of valve spring compression tool. This is one that I bought a few years back, and I used it primarily on motorcycles just because this style didn't work very well for me. I think because I had double overhead cam, I can't remember what the reason was, but this just I think it just had interference on the cylinder head, I can't remember. But this one I got from Sears. It's really basic, it's really old, but looking at it, it looks like it'll work fine. I might just use both of them on 2 different valves just to kind of give you a rundown of how they work, just so that way you have a better understanding. So whenever you disassemble this, make sure that you have either a piece of cardboard or some paper, something that you can lay all of your internal parts to the cylinder head on and you can keep them in order. I've done this before where I've reused parts on blocks and cylinder heads. You just need to make sure that you put them back in the same place that they came from. So it's a really good idea to put everything in order. Like this was combustion chamber number 1. These are the valve springs, these are the keepers, your rocker arms, everything. Keep them in the same place. The reason why I want to swap over the cam along with the rocker arms is this newer motor, it was rebuilt. It should be all in specification. We're going to inspect everything, make sure everything's good. But the cam arms have a section that ride on the camshaft. So in theory, they wear together. So if I'm going to reuse those rocker arms, I need to use the camshaft that came with it just to eliminate any sort of wear. Not only that, the motor that had the spun rod bearing, it was supposed to have been rebuilt. The cylinder head looks clean, all the channels, the inside of it, there's no gunk, there's no carbon buildup, there's no used, nasty, crusted up oil, so it looks like it was at least hot tanked. I don't know the extent of how it was rebuilt. I don't know where it came from. I don't know the machine shop. I don't know any of that stuff. So I will disassemble the whole cylinder head and I'll send it to the machine shop. They're going to give me the yay or the nay on it, and that'll dictate whether or not I can even use it. If I can't, then obviously I need to look into getting a replacement cylinder head. So we don't even know if we can reuse it, obviously, but if I can reuse it, then I'm going to use all the parts from the cylinder head from this engine. That'll be the plan. So let's go ahead and tear into it. In the service manual, it doesn't say anything about actually needing to be able to rotate the camshaft to loosen these rocker arms, which I know that's something that you do whenever you're actually setting valve lash, but whenever you're disassembling it, it's not required. Loosen up all of these lock nuts, and then we'll back off all of these adjusters. So this is a little tool that I have had for a very long time. It's a small ratchet, but it has the receiving end that takes a bit. I actually use these to remove all the screws for the door and everything. It works really well. You can use a Phillips head bit and it goes right in. And then something you could do is you can hit the back with a hammer to loosen up the screw. So now we gotta pull these rocker arm shafts out. Now, I should be able to push the rocker shafts out through the rear. Now your camshaft should just slide right out the rear. Just kind of look over it real quick, make sure everything looks good. Also keep in mind those rocker shafts and your camshaft, make sure you keep them oriented on your piece of cardboard front to rear. So that way you make sure you put them all back in the exact same way they came out. now we can pull these valve springs out. So to kind of show you how this particular tool works, you have this cup, which what it's designed to do is it sits on top of this. Now this little seat is normally supposed to sit around so this won't shift, but that's not absolutely necessary. The biggest thing is that you can clearly get in here to get the keeper out. That's what's most important. And then this tool right here, this portion right here grips this little cup that holds your keepers in. You have two different ones. It can kind of go like this. Now I'm seeing the reason why this isn't the greatest tool because I'm already contacting the mating surface for the valve cover. So I won't be able to compress the spring any with this actual tool. So I won't be able to use this one. So with this tool, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use the 30mm diameter adapter. Kind of give you all a quick shot. So as you can see, this adapter piece is sitting on top of that cup, on top of the valve spring. Valve spring retaining plate, that's what we'll call it. That sounds real scientific and motor talk, right? Sounds good. So it's sitting on the outside so I can get to the keeper. And then on the inside, the combustion chamber side, that one rounded piece, it actually sits on the center of the valve. So that way, whenever I twist this down, which there it went, it presses that spring down, exposing the keepers, and the bottom piece is holding the valve in place so the valve won't move down with the spring. So you can get in here with like a pick or a pair of needle nose pliers and you can pull those keepers right out. And then you just loosen this and it'll let the tension off the spring, and you can remove the tool and you can pull that plate off and you can pull that valve spring out. And we can keep these keepers, this spring, and this valve spring retaining plate together. Here's the front of the cylinder head, here's the rear where that distributor housing bolts to. So this is the last intake valve spring. Number 4, intake. Then you can push your intake valve out and set it aside with the rest. We'll go ahead and get the rest of these intake and exhaust valves out. Well guys, looking at this camshaft from the second cylinder head, it's got a pretty bad score mark right here. And all the journals for the camshaft on this second cylinder head are scored, but this one where it's scored on the camshaft really bad. This journal right here is pretty bad. So I might not be able to reuse this second cylinder head. I would probably have tried to use this one, but this piece that's missing out of combustion chamber number 4, it looks like it's actually sitting right where that valve seals. Well, maybe right before it. I guess I could give it to the machine shop and they could tell me what they think. I'd really be concerned that it would generate a hot spot, especially with the turbo. This would just all melt away and deteriorate and just really mess some stuff up. So I'm probably gonna have to get a new cylinder head. Well, both cylinder heads are apart, and from the 2 little things that I've showed you on both of them, they're probably not rebuildable, I'd say. That one off of this motor, it's got that piece missing out of cylinder number 4 combustion chamber, and those 2 thin areas would definitely generate a hot spot and just deteriorate away and melt away, and it would just be a rebuild down the road. And the cylinder head off of the motor that threw a rod bearing, it's definitely scored on all the journals of the camshaft in the cylinder head, but definitely that one, it's got like a piece protruding up, and the camshaft's got a groove worn in it real bad. So if I put that one back together, it would just be a tear down the road too. I don't even know how long that would last. It would just wear away, metal shavings everywhere, just not worth going through that much trouble just to rebuild it and possibly damage this bottom end. I need to pull that bottom end out, and we need to check it out to make sure that it's even salvageable. But that's a video for another day. If this was content that you enjoyed watching, be sure to smash that like button. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date on what I've got going on in the shop. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.